Hello and welcome to another Q&A. For new viewers, this is a series where I put up a post every Monday on the post section of YouTube and encourage you guys to ask me questions. Motorcycle related are preferred, and I choose 10 to 15 best questions and make a video on it and put it up the following weekend. Before I start, thank you so much for actively taking part in this Q&A series and allowing me to add some value to your lives. I really look forward to answering your questions, and there are some really interesting questions that were asked last week, and one of them comes towards the end of this video. So make sure you watch till the end. Let's begin. How effective is the two fingers method for handling the brake and clutch, especially in the city rides, such as Bangalore conditions, and I feel pain after using this method on the clutch side. Can you please advise about this? Where, how, when to use it? Thanks in advance. So this is a very simple and most effective way to using your clutch and your brake. If you use four fingers to engage your clutch and your brake, in an emergency situation, you would panic brake. And because you're using four fingers on your levers, you'll apply quite a bit of force to the brake, resulting in the front wheel being locked and you would be kissing the ground. Same with the clutch. If you use four fingers for clutch, chances are during some emergency situations, your hand can just slip out of the handlebar. So in order for you to prevent that, just grab the handle with three fingers and grab the lever with two. More proficient riders use one fingers, and that just comes with basic practice. What you're doing is essentially allowing yourself to be prepared at all times. If you are not putting any of your fingers on either of the levers and waiting for an emergency situation to arise, you have to take into consideration the amount of time it takes for you to go from the handle to the lever. And in situations like that, you can end up getting injured fatally. I hope this helps. Practice is the key here. Hey Shri, now that the news of Bajaj making 350cc motorcycles is confirmed, you think they'll do the same for KTM? I hope so, this becomes true, because in my opinion, a 350 Adventure will be a great machine for me. Yes, I believe this is true as well. Triumph, Bajaj, Enfield, everybody will now be manufacturing a lower segment motorcycle. This is completely in relation with the GST 2.0 that was introduced sometime last year. And what this does is it opens the doors for a common man to all these premium brands and have the experience at a lower power level. But it just makes you feel that you can get access to these brands and not miss out on the adventure. Because 390 Adventure or Himalayan 450 or 650, they can be a little bit intimidating, but if you start small at these brands at 250 level, then it just opens up a whole wide of doors for customers. Yes, I do believe that this is going to happen in the future. Next one. Hey Shri, as the new 650s have post-CAT O2 sensors, how can I use performance header pipes without triggering the MIL? So I'll give you the example of PowerAge header pipes. I do have the full system exhaust for the Interceptor. I will install it in the coming weeks. But the newer exhaust pipes that are being manufactured by these aftermarket brands, they do have the slot for the secondary O2 sensors. So don't worry, you will not be failing your MIL sensors. Just go ahead and install it if you can, and if you want to. I hope this helps. Hi, recently I started following your videos. I own Himalayan 450 2024 January model, same as me, and Classic 350 2014 March model. Coming to my questions, my Himalayan 450 did 7,200 kilometers and it's time for rear brake pad replacement. I can go for Bybre Organic, which comes for Bajaj Dominar 400, and few other pulsars since my usage is low and I don't want to spend 3,300 rupees for OEM. My Classic 350 is 12 years old, 64,000 kilometers, completely sealed engine. Sometimes I feel issues with this petrol E20. Is it okay? Change entire carburetor, which costs 3,000 instead of going for E20 kit, which costs 1,700. Answer to the second question is absolutely go for the E20 kit. I'm not asking you to follow trends, but the kit is much more cheaper and is much more effective than changing the entire system altogether. It helps you save some money over there. To answer your first question, yes, you can absolutely go with organic brake pads, which come for Dominar and other motorcycles. However, you have to understand the basic composition of the organic brake pads. They are made up of rubber, glass, Kevlar, all held together with resin. And they don't do so well under sustained heat And fun fact, they have the shortest lifespan among all the three kinds of brake pads. That is sintered, ceramic, and organic. So yes, you will be saving money by going with the cheaper brake pad. However, you will find yourself using more and more brake pads and replacing them more often with your use case. So I hope this makes sense. But if you ask me, I will always suggest you to go with the OEM sintered brake pads. Those are really good. They work excellently well under sustained heat pressure. They also have good wet weather performance. Organic ones do not have that good of a wet weather performance, and they have the longest lifespan, the sintered ones. I hope this makes sense. Moving on. I have a Royal Enfield Interceptor and I love it, but I feel I miss a more powerful engine as it will make my rides more easy on the accelerator hand, giving a more relaxed ride on most speeds and geography. Is this assumption right, or does a higher cc engine like the T100 or T120 not give that relaxed ride compared to a slightly underpowered Interceptor? I do mostly back roads, 80 kilometers, and some motorway, which are 110 kilometers. Ian. Thank you so much for asking this question, Ian. I will address the speeds which you mentioned towards the end of your question. Your use case is limited to 80 or 110. Even if it goes up till 130, this motorcycle does not have any restrictions whatsoever in keeping those speeds as constant cruising speed. So by all means, go with this one. However, if you want a little bit more in the reserve for you to effectively overtake these cars or motorcycles at these freeways at certain speeds, then by all means go with a higher cc engine. The advantages of having a lower cc engine, such as the Interceptor particularly, is it opens up a lot of doors for you to customize it and bring the power levels a little higher as well. So you can save a bit of money there and use that money to make this more powerful. And still end up saving a lot of money as opposed to buying a T100 or T120. Hello Sri, hope you're doing well. I too own a Himalayan 450 and wants to upgrade to 10W50 fully synthetic engine oil and was wondering if Royal Enfield Service Center would allow me to do so. I've ridden the bike around 3,000 kilometers and was wondering to get it replaced on the second service. Please advise if this voids the warranty or not. If you want to play it safe, if you want to play it by the book, you can get the service done, the second service done, and once you have done it, just replace the oil with the other one. That's fine. A lot of people do it. As a beginner, what type of essential maintenance routines one should follow for longevity of the bike? So, number one thing, get your motorcycles serviced periodically and adhere to the service intervals by the OEM. And what this helps is, it helps you get all the warranty if you want to claim it. And this is an interval set by the manufacturer and it's a very calculated and thoroughly researched interval. So just do follow these protocols, get your bike serviced, take care of the chain and take care of the sprockets. Just get it serviced regularly, I would say. Just don't ignore it. So what I have done on this bike is I've always gotten it serviced from the authorized service centers. Once I completed 2 years of this motorcycle, once I got the 4 services done from the manufacturer, then I started going to an aftermarket service dealer, Speed Monks in my case. And ever since, I have had no problems whatsoever. This is also due for its 7th service, I would say. And I will be making an extensive video on that using 10W50 oils and changing the front suspension fluid ever since I got the YSS suspensions done on this one. So, hope that video comes out soon. Imagine you're Nitin Gadkari. What decisions will you take for the future of Indian bikes? Yes, this is one of those interesting questions which I said at the beginning of this video. So, I've written some answers for it. This is a very thought-provoking and amazing question. If I were Nitin Gadkari, the number one thing that I would enforce, and I'm using this word deliberately because I want to do that, is ensure that stricter motorcycle training regime is practiced and nobody gets a license without going through an extensive motorcycle exam, written and practical. The number 2 thing would be ensure a safer road engineering. Yes, the highways are fantastic, but what about the city? Ensure that proper boundaries are there on the road, proper dividers are there, and streets are lit. City roads also have to be equally safe. There has to be boundaries because anybody can come from anywhere, and ensure strict, unimaginable penalties to people driving on the wrong side of the road. Just because, chalta hai, like that kind of a thing. Number 3, safer road etiquettes even for public, and impose heavy fines for people who just litter things just because they can. Creating roads is a government's job, understood. But maintaining those roads is equally important, and that falls on the public's shoulders as well. Yes, the government maintains it because that's why they charge us heavy taxes, but you as public citizens can also take care of these things, like not litter anywhere in public. Just smoke a cigarette and then throw it off. I've seen multiple families throw packets of chips and everything just out the window because it's not their space. It's somebody else's job. So that mentality, that mindset has to be changed. And that can be changed if you introduce a little fear. That fear is of paying heavy duty fines. That is the only way, because people have too fragile egos, I would say. Number 4, definitely a wider ethanol infrastructure. Yes, I know this is a very hot topic these days, but I'm not asking, and I'm not saying that I would ensure that usage of ethanol is okay in motorcycles. But what I would want to do is provide people, the public, a choice to either go with ethanol blend or go with a premium blend. That's it. Number 4, definitely introduce EVs because those are the future. However, not force it down the public's throat. Just leave it up to them if they want to make that choice or not. And that being said, just improve the EV infrastructure as well. It is being improved, but a little bit more for motorcycles. And lastly, with so many motorcycles on the Indian market, where do you park these? A safer and shaded parking for motorcycles is very much essential, and not just cram them up, just leaving millimeters between each, so that the rider who comes and sits on his or her motorcycle has a huge difficulty in getting that out of the parking lot, just because two people decided to park very idiotically, I would say. And yes, promote a stronger riding culture which is built on responsibility and trust. That'll be my answer. This was the longest answer of this Q&A, but very good question, thought-provoking one. What to look for while buying a used GT? Any clear red flags I should look for? Is a year-old bike for sale? Good. Just make sure that the bike has proper electricals functioning all the time. And make sure your clutch cable, your accelerator cable are in good condition. If not, that's a chance to bargain. Look under the belly, under the chassis of the motorcycle. It should not have a lot of scratches or dents or any oil leakage. And number 4, start the bike, go for a test ride in front of the owner. Make sure that there is no white smoke coming out of the exhaust, because if it is, that's a clear sign that the bike has been abused a lot. Yeah, just ride the motorcycle, I would say. And of course, look inside the fuel tank as well. It should not have a lot of rust buildup. A little bit of rust is fine, thanks to E20 blend, but not a lot. So yes, just inspect. And of course, any bike, no matter how old it is, should have proper service records and proper bills. So if the seller can give these to you, great, go for it. Thank you so much. I hope I answered your question correctly. So these were all the amazing questions that were asked last week. Thank you so much for taking active part in these Q&A series and allowing me to make these videos for you guys. I genuinely cannot thank you enough. And it's Monday again. I'll put up a post by evening and encourage you to ask me more questions like this. Feel free to comment your suggestions as to what should I make next. And for people who think that I've missed out on their questions, rest assured, I will reply to your questions personally on the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this Q&A series. I'll see you in the next one. Sri out.